There's a call for you. Cove wants to come over. Is that alright? Oh yeah, I'm just here looking at my boobs, Mom. Send them on in. It'd be great. Be a party. What's up, bitches? It's Noisy Face back for another Tuesday episode of How Much More Will We Tolerate, Cove? So, here's the thing about recording when you're playing a game. You gotta make sure that you're actually recording. I had a whole moment with Cove and his young hot mom, and I didn't record any of it. But I'm gonna fill you in on what happened and what you missed out. So, Kira, she shows up. And we figure out that Cliff is short for Clifford, and he planned the whole spontaneous event of her showing up and didn't really discuss it with anybody. And she's like, whatever, let's go to a restaurant. And Cove's like, no, I don't want to eat ever again. But you convince him to go, and you drink some root beer, and you figure out that Cove talks about you a lot, but she won't tell you why, because she just wants to embarrass him a teeny tiny bit, not a huge amount of bit. She's a photographer. She goes to vacation places and tells people what they should see there. It's all very glamorous. So that's what you missed on the episode that I wasn't recording, and we're gonna be jumping into moments today that I do plan to record, hopefully. So let's get to getting. The family shopping trip had lasted most of the morning, and you still had to unload everything from the trunk before you could go enjoy the afternoon. You cradled another bag in your arms as you headed towards your house. It was one of the heavier bags from the grocery store, loaded with fresh apples, ripe tomatoes, a bunch of carrots, and even half a watermelon. Ma came out the front door and paused just ahead of you. Need help with that, French fries? I can bring it the rest of the way if you want me to. Yes, please, that would be helpful. Yes, please, it's too heavy. No, I've got it. No, I've got it. I'm fine, I got it, and I can barely hold it, but I got it. I agreed. I didn't say anything. I'm gonna say, no, I'm doing fine. That's what I'm gonna go with. Even if it was large, it wasn't really any problem for you. Ma gave you an encouraging grin and rustled her fingers through your black hair. Set the next bag on the counter. Your older sister began to root around inside for the contents with a sigh. How much is left? Still a few more bags. With a huff and a puff, Elizabeth continued putting away the groceries, and you retreated out of the kitchen before you could become the target of her bad mood. Careful, French fries. You hadn't been looking where you were going and bumped right into Mom, almost stepping on her toes to boot. Sorry. I can give you a pass this time, but be sure to watch where you're going. If you run into the wrong person, you might get your license revoked. She grinned at the bad joke as you continued through the door. Outside, Ma had started organizing what remained and putting back any loose objects that had fallen out during the trip. When you stepped up to the trunk beside her, she took in a big breath of air, her dress gently swaying around in the breeze. It's a shame we had to spend the morning cooped up in that shopping center. It's a beautiful day, don't you think? You tilted your head to the sky, gazing at the clear, blue expanse. Yeah, it is. Days like today are my favorite. It's too hot. I wish it was raining. No, I wish it was raining! I like it when it's stormy the best. I'm gonna say yeah, it is. You closed your eyes and enjoyed the way the sun warmed your face for a few moments before turning back to Ma with the groceries. Oh, hi, Cove! You noticed Mom wave over at Cove, who had just exited his front door, his surfboard propped up under one arm. Let me see. Surfboard, wetsuit. Where might you be off to this beautiful day? Mom, you're not funny, and no one appreciates your humor. Cove flinched at being called out so suddenly. He hadn't realized there were people out here already, but he quickly recovered. Cove stayed on his side of the driveway, giving a small wave in greeting. After a moment or two of deliberation, he jogged over to properly say hello to you and your moms. Hello, honey. Hi, Cove. He adjusted the surfboard under his arm a little, getting a better grip on it. Hey, if you want to go to the beach, we could hang out there later. Sure, I'll meet you there. Oh yeah, oh yeah, I could do that, ... That's literally, I say that all the time. We're gonna run with that. Cool. I'll see you, French fires. Yeah. You watched as Cove headed off towards the beach, unable to hide your grin, knowing that you'd be joining him soon. Once everything had finally been taken in and put away, you got yourself ready to meet Cove at the beach. Had a surfboard. I do not have a surfboard. That is not a thing that I have. Your family had a surfboard. Weren't sure what you were going to do. He was surfing and you didn't know how. I did tell him I did not know how to surf when I was a wee little baby me, so we're gonna choose that option. You said the same thing to your parents. While Ma laughed a little, Mom gave you a smile. You'll just have to go there and see what happens. Cove must have been so excited to invite you there that he forgot you don't surf. Or he's hoping you'll go to watch him so he can show off. Oh yes, I used to do that. I know, hun. I experienced French fire situation firsthand. I was stuck on the shore too. You noticed what I was doing? Yes. After the very first time, it's not a subtle move. How embarrassing. I was still impressed. Oh, thank you. Wow, Ma. What are you still doing here? Go on, have your fun. You're only young once, but don't do anything I wouldn't have. Okay. So don't be a creeper and watch? Because I'm pretty sure that's what I'm gonna go do, so. Hide boys in my room at night when I'm not supposed to? At your parents' prodding, you hurried to leave the house and head down to the beach. When you arrived at the shore, you were greeted by the crash of waves and the soft call of seagulls. You took in a lungful of ocean air and felt your tan skin warm in the sun. You noticed a small setup nearby with a towel, some sunscreen, and a bottle of water. It must be Cove's. You spotted Cove himself nearby. He hadn't gone out to sea yet. He was just sitting in the sand at the water's edge, his board propped up beside him. You strolled up beside him. Hey, I'm here. French fires. He looked up at you with a smile and quickly hopped to his feet. I was gonna go in on my own soon. It kinda seemed like you weren't coming. I wouldn't have missed it. Sorry you had to wait. Stay inside all day? I don't think so. I don't want to be weird. You were able to make him laugh with that. Then he cast his eyes out towards the waves. What am I supposed to do while you surf? I'll stay here and watch you surf. I'm gonna go find something to do while you surf. Probably hey, I'll stay and watch you. That's probably the best of the options. You were ready to spread out your towel and take it easy.
Don't worry about it.
I don't have to go out. I'll stay with you on the shore. Or, if you want, you can use one of my other boards. I owe you that much, right? I was the one who always promised to show you about surfing. True. He offered the option to you for pretty much as long as you've known him. You were touched that he remembered. You would rather watch Cove surf. You accepted the offer to hang out on the beach. You wanted to try surfing. I would probably try, but like I tried skateboarding once and it was disastrous. I'll do it. Let's surf. Cool. It was settled. Cove left up the shore and then returned with an extra board under his arm in no time at all. He paddled out into the sea to where the good waves were. The water was cool against your skin. Not too calm. Nothing crazy. It looks perfect today. He smiled at you and couldn't help but smile back. You felt totally content. Until Cove kicked the water a little too hard and it inadvertently splashed you. Hey! Sorry. Did that hit you? Sorry. Is he genuinely sorry or is he fucking around? You could tell he really did feel bad that you had gotten caught in the crossfire. You splashed him back. You let it go. I'm gonna splash him back, motherfucker. You laughed, but waited for an opening for revenge. The second he looked away, you kicked back, spraying him. Seriously? Is that the way you treat someone trying to help? I came out here to teach you. Hey, I was just following your example. That's me. Yeah. Cove tried to keep a straight face, but ended up looking away. The water you flicked at him landed in shiny droplets in his hair. Then here's another lesson. He soaked you deliberately this time. He used his full leg and an impressive curtain of water hit you in the face. You lost your balance and scrambled to keep hold of your board. You just managed to stay on, but it was close. Cove winced. You okay? Sorry. I'm fine. But we should do the real teaching. Yeah. He chuckled awkwardly and shook some water out of his ear. With that, Cove started— Oh, it's the music! With that, Cove started telling you all the tips and tricks of how to stay on a surfboard. He demonstrated both good and bad posture and explained where you needed to put your weight. Like this? You wiggled your body so that you were more in the center of your board. Cove nodded. Yep, just like that. The little lesson continued and things clicked with you quickly. You had to go slowly, but you got it. You kind of struggled. It was disastrous. I mean, I feel like it's gonna be between these two, and if I'm being honest, I'm gonna say disastrous. So let's choose that. You could scarcely stand on a motionless board without falling right back off. Cove still supported you regardless. Since you weren't truly ready for it, Cove never pushed you to start taking on full waves, which meant that he didn't either. Instead, he stuck by your side in calmer seas to assist you with your practice. There was no disappointment on his face over how things played out. Even if you hadn't reached the point of doing any real serious surfing yet, it was still a lot of fun. Many laughs were shared between the two of you. What an afternoon. Setting sun was visible on the horizon. Every time you looked away, it had sunk a little lower. The beach was darkening, but still pleasantly warm. You knew you should get out of the water before it was completely dark in the sea. You rode one last wave to get back to the beach. There, you picked up your surfboard and gave it a quick once-over. Cove followed behind you to the shore. He put his board with his other things and grabbed his towel to start drying off. As he ruffled his hair with the towel, you watched the sunset together. The colors were beautiful in the distance, and the shadows around you deepened. There were no need for words between you. Both enjoyed the sight for a moment. Then Cove broke the silence. The waves were good today, I think. Yeah, totally, I guess. Perfect for surfing. Do you really think so? I'm gonna say perfect for surfing. He nodded, mildly. You chatted a little more until the conversation truly died out, and all you heard was a rhythmic sound of waves. Then Cove sighed. Day can't be over. Not yet. He scowled into the distance as if the sun exiting the sky was a personal offense. Don't you think it should be longer? Yeah, it felt long enough to me. Only a shrug could express your feelings on that matter. I'm gonna say yeah, like it's been a pretty good day. Cove stood up straight in defiance of the approaching darkness. I'm not gonna go home yet. I wanna go somewhere. I don't know. Cove was still dripping in salt water, so you weren't sure what the alternative was. Wetsuits were fine for the beach and not much else. It wasn't a good idea for him to lug his surfboard around town either. You'd be real cute in that wetsuit wherever you go. Know what I mean? Well, I need to call it a night. Yeah, I want to do something too. We'll sure be welcome anywhere soaking wet like this. I think I'm gonna, yeah, we're gonna... Cove's face and ears flushed red as he looked down and inspected himself. He crossed his hands over his chest, self-conscious. He had been so used to wearing it that Cove hadn't given his current choice of dress any thought. At least, that was before you pointed it out to him. Stop it. Then he looked down the shore with wide, shining eyes. There's at least one place that's always okay to hang out in, no matter what time it is. The park. You nodded. The park was virtually always empty. Even Elizabeth only went there nowadays if she was looking for you. How times had changed. She used to be so protective of that place. In fact, the only person there was a chance of running into might be that Jeremy kid again. You brought the idea up to Cove and he cringed. But it's still going. The sun is still there a little. I'm staying out as long as it is. You tagged along, you went home. I'm gonna come along in case I need to yell at Jeremy again. Okay, let's go. Cove took a minute to put his stuff in order. He made sure to get it all, though didn't take much care to shake the sand off. You dealt with your own things. Stuffed everything together quickly, took your time to pack your bag. I kinda want it to be like messy. This one. The two of you finished at about the same time. As a final touch, Cove plucked his glasses off the beach and put them back on his face. He looked more like himself now. He led the way down the beach to the park. It wasn't far, so it didn't take you long at all. The sun still hadn't completely disappeared just yet when you made your arrival. Cove stuck his surfboard upright in the sand and tossed his towel over the top. By now, the two of you were mostly dry. The summer breeze on your skin kept you pleasantly warm. Cove idly went over to the monkey bars. He grabbed them, feet flat on the ground, and pretended to go across. He'd definitely grown in the past few years. You could barely use the monkey bars yourself. There wasn't much space at all between you and the ground. When he got to a bar in the middle, Cove pulled himself up and through and then sat on top. His legs dangled off to the side of the bar he perched on. You joined him, you stood nearby, you took a seat on the swing. I do like to swing, but I feel like I would get up there and hang out, so let's go with that. Without Cove's height advantage, getting up there was more difficult, but you made it. You climbed on the side of the monkey bars and pulled yourself up to the top. You settled yourself in between two of the slats. The skinny metal wasn't the most comfortable thing to sit on, though you enjoyed the height it gave you. Guess what? He smiled broadly and raised an eyebrow. He's not here. Well, you're gonna say that, and then he's gonna just come out of the bush and be like, "What are you doing? Stupid eyebrows!" I hope not. That would suck ass. Right, it was true. There wasn't a single sign of Jeremy, looking like it was just going to be the two of you tonight. Cove hung his head and groaned dramatically. Your eyes widened when he whipped his head back up. Can't believe how dumb my parents are for forcing me to come to this stupid place. Damn, Cove, that came out of nowhere. Jesus. You were taken aback and blinked for a second. Oh, before... Alright, I see what you're doing. Aha. Don't scare me like that. One Jeremy is enough. That's not really nice. Funny, but not nice. You don't have to tease him. Ugh, parents don't know anything. That's probably what I would do. I'd probably mimic him as well. Cove chuckled back at you, amused. You looked around. The old park, streets you knew like the back of your hand, and the beach. These were your stomping grounds. You wondered how Cove actually felt. How much his joke was just a joke, and how much was sincere dislike of this place. Moving had never been his choice. Do you actually like this neighborhood? I know you don't think it's dumb. You let the silence stretch between you two. I'm gonna ask him... Well, like, I want to ask him if he likes it, but I also kind of don't want to say anything, because I don't want to speak for him. I'll probably ask him. Like, he's my buddy. He shouldn't care. Do you really have to ask that, French Fires? Well, obviously I do, Cove! Cove kicked his legs carelessly as they dangled. He smiled softly. I like it here. Really do. Nice place. He didn't hesitate. There was no uncertainty. That was his genuine opinion. Yeah, I like it too. Well, at least one person likes it here. You nodded wordlessly. Well, of course, I'm here after all. Yes! Yes! I don't need any other options. Just give me that. That's a good one. He shook his head with a rueful smile. It didn't take long for the day to finally draw to a close. The sun was gone, and it was dark. You chatted a while longer, but it was definitely winding down. We better get home. I wish days were longer. You chose not to say anything. I'm going to say, I wish days were longer. I wish this day was longer. His feet kicked out, made him look like a pouty child. Oh well. Cove sighed. It was time to go home. He hopped down from the monkey bars with a thump and his feet hit the ground. You clambered down the monkey bars yourself. You lowered yourself more slowly than Cove and barely made a sound when your feet reached the ground. Cove grabbed his surfboard and threw his towel around his neck. With his water bottle in hand, he was ready. You both began your trek up the road. It was a quiet night, and you didn't run into anyone else. What felt like no time at all, you had reached your street. As you walked, Cove smiled to himself. It was a soft expression, and you couldn't help but wonder what put it there. Everything okay? I just remember when we were younger. It used to be such a big deal to come home after dark. You could indeed recall. If you got sandy, your parents would have something to say. If you got wet, your parents would have more to say. And if you came home after dark, well, your mom's and his dad better have said it was okay beforehand. You used to need permission for everything. That small comment he made exposed just how much freedom you really had this summer. Cove looked up at the sky, smile still on his face as the two of you walked side by side reminiscing. When you came to your houses, you tuned each other. Bye. Bye, it was nice seeing you. This was definitely an interesting experience. Yup, or thanks for the awesome day. How many you put up with my awkward surfing? I'm gonna thank you for that. Cove waved and you both turned around to your respective houses. That was a pleasant end to the outing, you thought. Early one afternoon, you found yourself in the living room with your family. It was another one of those summer days where it felt too hot to go outside, but it was too uncomfortable to do anything inside either. The air conditioner was cranked up as far as you could negotiate, but everyone was still pretty lazy. You, your moms, and sister were lounging around while the TV flared on in the backdrop, ignored by all of you. You, specifically, were lying spread eagle on the carpet, sitting cross-legged on the floor, perched on the arm of the couch, draped over the coffee table. You're just like, ah, this table's great. I like it here. I'm going to say cross-legged. That is the thing that I do. You looked out the windows at the backyard. Not that there was anything of particular interest to watch. Elizabeth broke the silence with a loud groan. You glanced over. She was lying on her back over the couch, massaging her calf with one hand. I feel terrible. I'm dying in this house and my legs hurt. Mom looked up from the magazine she'd barely been flipping through and frowned, concerned. Could you strain them somehow? Elizabeth flailed briefly, then flopped onto her side with a heavy sigh. I don't know. It just hurts.
Sweetie.
Ma got up from her seat at the kitchen table and walked over to your sister. She did a light pat on Elizabeth's shoulder sympathetically. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. Maybe it's growing pains. You could be taller by next fall. Elizabeth scoffed. She didn't look impressed by Ma's assessment. I'd rather be my height forever than deal with this. Mom walked over too, leaning against the back of the couch. Kids, they grow up so fast. Soon Elizabeth will have a home of her own. Maybe even with a nice husband and some kids if she feels like it. She sniffled loudly and wiped at her eye. You could tell that it was just... okay. She's faking it. She's a fakey faker. What that said. Verbatim. What? I mean, she's pretending to cry, so, you know. There's bags in the kitchen. In the snack bag. Are they in the Star Wars bag? Maybe? You tilted your head. Even though you knew Elizabeth liked guys, it was hard to imagine her with a boyfriend or a husband. She only seemed invested in hanging out with her group of friends, not chasing after boys. Mom must agree with you because she shook her head. Let's not exaggerate, she's still practically a child. But if you do ever pursue romance, Elizabeth, you can come talk to me about it. Definitely, we're always willing to lend an ear. Elizabeth's features contorted in disgust. I'm not talking to my moms about that. Mom's jaw dropped, and she gasped in an exaggerated display of shock. Her hands came up to rest against her chest. Ma only grinned. She didn't look offended by Elizabeth's quick response at all. It really wouldn't be so bad to come to us. I know what it's like to have a crush on a pretty boy or two. I don't, but I can listen anyway. Mom snorted at her own joke, while Ma burst into giggles. They were having a little too much fun at Elizabeth's expense. Elizabeth certainly wasn't feeling the amusement. She rolled her eyes and sat up. I'm going back to my room. I'd rather melt alone, thanks. She strode off towards the staircase, taking the steps two at a time. Your mom started after her, then turned to each other and raised eyebrows. Whoops, looked like we scared her off with all that romance talk. We'll get her next time. You watched them titter with some surprise. Obviously, your moms liked women, but you had no idea that Ma liked guys too. Today was the first time you'd heard her say anything like that. Ma, I always thought you only like ladies. You like guys too? Ma turned to you, happy to bring you into things now that you'd spoken up. She smiled and nodded. That's right. I like 'em both. But I like your mom most out of everyone. She's special. Ma's smile turned all soft in the corners, like it usually did when she looked at her. She pinched Mom's cheeks lightly. Mom reached up to cup a hand over Ma's. Even when Ma stopped pulling her cheek, their hands remained clasped together. Thanks, Lonnie. I think most women have charm, but no one can hold a candle to you. Ma beamed, then kissed Mom on the cheek she'd been pinching before. You laughed at their antics. You thought the moment was sweet. It is super sweet. I mean, parents are embarrassing, but that's super sweet. You smiled to yourself at the sight. No matter how often your moms expressed their feelings for each other, it was always nice to witness it. Ma looked back at you, letting Mom's hand go with a brief squeeze. She settled down next to you, and Mom followed soon after. You know, I'm always here to listen to you whenever you're ready. That offer isn't just for Elizabeth. She bumped her shoulder with yours, a reassuring smile in place. There's no rush, of course. You can take all the time you need to figure out what or who.
It's okay.
Don't think you have to stick with whatever you come up with right now either. Life's like that. Change, you can learn. Mom nodded her agreement. The two of us are happy to hear you out, and we may be able to relate better than you think. Still, we won't push the topic, at least most of the time. She gave Ma the weakest scathing look possible while being able to stop grinning. Thanks, you nodded silently, you shrugged. You don't have to worry about that. I'd rather pass on all that. I'm a genuine thanks. That's like super nice of them. I'll think about it.
Wonderful.
That's all we ask for. Mom let out another exaggerated sniffle. It didn't take a genius to realize that it was fake. First Elizabeth and now you, French fires. Do you have to grow up? Yes, children do tend to do that from time to time. Your parents quickly grew absorbed in their conversation about rearing kids. You took it as your cue to leave, getting up so you could spend some time alone in your room, too. They let you go without a problem, so you made your way up the stairs. You let out a sigh once you stepped into It was just as sweltering in there as it was in the living room, possibly even a little warmer. You couldn't even open your window since it was hotter outside and you just let the AC out. You dragged your feet as you crossed the room. You checked your current sweltering condition in the mirror as you passed by it. Thought back to the conversation you'd had downstairs about growing up and all that. After a moment, you stepped a bit closer to the mirror. You stared into it, then turned away from the surface to look down at yourself. You were definitely growing. It was weird thinking about how you were now in comparison to what you'd been when you were younger. When it came to your body, it was getting some muscle definition, was chubby, was slender, was heavy set, was sort of scrawny. When I was 13, I was like teeny tiny, so we're gonna go sort of scrawny right down there. You shifted to your side, your head still facing forward and continuing the self-evaluation from this viewpoint. Oh, see, this is really nice that they give you this choice. Like, I mean, I'm a cis, so we're gonna go with that. Yeah, that's at 13. Is this one? That's me at 13. Standing sideways, it was easier to notice the slight increases in that area. You took a step backwards, finished with your impromptu inspection. You locked eyes with your reflection, cocking your head to the side. All things considered, you thought you looked fantastic. That is hardly ever a thing. You didn't look too bad. You had no idea how to feel. You were simply neutral. You were self-conscious. You wanted to look different than you did. I'm still hella self-conscious, so we're gonna go with that. It took you a moment to realize that you were frowning at yourself. You glanced away from the mirror. You shook your head roughly, putting thoughts of what you were turning into out of your mind. This wasn't the time to focus on such things. You had to find something to do in this heat. You shuffled over to your bed, collapsing onto the mattress, your brow scrunched up in thought. Time passed slowly, and to your annoyance, possible ideas about what to do were few and far in between. You weren't sure how long it had been, but eventually you heard your mom call you from downstairs. "French fries! There's a call for you. Cove wants to come over. Is that all right?" "Oh yeah, I'm just here looking at my boobs, Mom. Send them on in. It'd be great. Be a party." You perked up at the words, sitting up in bed. You yelled back to her immediately. "Yeah!" You got to your feet and headed downstairs, eager to see your friend. You needed to go downstairs soon anyway because your empty stomach told you it was almost time for lunch. Just as you reached the bottom of the stairs, you saw Mom put the phone back on the receiver. She glanced at Ma, leaning her hip against the counter. "Well, here comes trouble. We better prepare ourselves." Ma clicked her tongue in clear disapproval of Mom's words. "He's such a good boy. Cove never wants to cause trouble. He can just be a bit thoughtless and impulsive." "Oh, I know, he's very sweet, but that's what makes it more of a problem. If a stranger or some kid from school was egging French fires on to behave badly, I think we can both agree that she'd do the right thing in the end. But if Cove Holden got into a reckless mood and wanted French fires to be a part of the ride, we can't really be certain what call she'd make then." "Like, yeah, why you gotta do me like that, Mom? That's low. That's a low blow." "I think so. French fires helps Cove settle down. He would have gotten himself in even more trouble without her." "Well, you have a point. Look, all I'm saying is that I haven't forgotten that time when they were kids and French fires chased after Cove once he ran away." Ma just laughed. As she turned away, still snorting, her eyes met yours. She blinked in surprise, then waved at you with an easy grin. Mom looked over, noticing you at the foot of the stairs as well. "Oh, I didn't expect you to come down already, French fires. I just wanted to let you know what was happening. Oh yeah, I caught you. Talking shit, Mom." You pretended you didn't overhear their conversation. You called Mom out. Oh man, like when I was little, I would have probably pretended, so we're gonna go with that. Yeah, it's okay. I just got here." From the way Mom and Ma exchanged amused glances, you got the feeling that they didn't believe you. Thankfully, they didn't correctly accuse you of lying. Sure, well, we'll just get out of the way. You and Cove take care." You couldn't help but flush when Ma winked. Mom elbowed her, even as a smile tugged at her lips. "Honestly, this lady." Your moms whispered amongst themselves as they went down the hall. Eventually, you heard the faint sound of their bedroom door shutting. Now you were alone in the living room, tasked with waiting for Cove. That was just fine with you. If it hadn't been so hot outside, you would have visited him at his house a long time ago. You took a seat at the kitchen counter and settled in for the wait. As expected, there was a knock on the door a few moments later. When you got up and answered it, your neighbor was standing on the other side. He came in once you stepped aside and let him pass, giving a little wave. You greeted him as you typically did. With a wave, with a low five, with a nudge to the shoulder, with a noogie. I have never noogied anybody ever. With a hug, probably a shoulder nudge. We're still kind of like friend zone, maybe not friend zone, awkwardness. There we go. You reached over and nudged his shoulder. Cove rocked to the side a bit and rolled his eyes. He was still smiling. Cove sighed and wiped at his face a bit. You noted the sheen of sweat across his brow. He must be glad to be back in an air-conditioned place. even if you only had to walk across the street to get here. Something going on? Why'd you want to come over? I didn't want to do anything. Not when it's like this. He gestured vaguely to the humid air hanging around him. I thought I could at least do nothing with you. Thought that was really sweet. How'd you know I was doing nothing? Maybe I had plans. You nodded. That made sense to you. I was thinking the exact thing. I'm gonna say sweet, although this second one is highly entertaining. I'm gonna say sweet. His words were nice and expressed real fondness for you, in a strange sort of way, which was usually the case with Cove. Have you had lunch yet? I was gonna do it soon. He shook his head. I haven't really felt like eating because of the heat. I probably should have lunch. I didn't have breakfast this morning. Yeah, I get like that sometimes too. You should eat properly. If you didn't eat at all, then you gotta have something now. Great, we can eat lunch together. Probably great, we can eat lunch together. Cove nodded, looking content with your suggestion. Okay, cool. As one, you headed into the kitchen. You crossed your arms as you glanced around, wondering what you should scrounge up for a meal. I don't want to eat anything that's warmed up. Is there something cold or not cooked? Yeah. After a bit of back and forth, the two of you concluded that you should raid the fridge and cabinet in order to make sandwiches. With that settled, you had planned to decide on the outside layers first. There was a wide variety to choose from since everyone in your house had their own favorites. There was white bread, wheat bread, sourdough, mixed grains, gluten-free bread, and pita pockets. Could you take the grain one for me? Sure. You reached for the mixed grains, then made your decision. A lettuce. Why? Who eats a sandwich of cinnamon swirl bread? What kind of monster are you? I'm gonna say wheat bread. Well, there's no wheat bread, so I guess mixed grains, I guess? Where I'm gonna live? Mixed grains of wheat! Let's do it. You wanted mixed grains as well, so you set... Okay, you wanted mixed grains as well, so you set just that onto the counter. Then you had to decide what main direction the sandwich would go in. You wanted to make a sweeter sandwich, which sounds disgusting, so I'm gonna make a savory sandwich. As for the specific ingredients, oh man, there's a lot of stuff here. What do I want? Oh, well, let me look this over. I'm gonna go ham and turkey. And I saw avocado, which sounds delicious. And then cheddar cheese. And then on to condiments, which is probably just gonna be mayonnaise. Pesto, pesto, bro! Or ranch. Delicious. Delicious. You nodded to yourself with a quiet hum, satisfied. No wonder we had to carry in so many bags of groceries. That was a lot of shit. The two of you bustled around the kitchen, opening and closing things in order to collect everything you needed for your individual sandwiches. You focused intently on assembling your own for the most part. When you were close to being done, though, you glanced over at your neighbor. Cove was putting his sandwich together delicately, his brow furrowed and tongue sticking out just barely. There were open jars of peanut butter and honey near his plate, as well as a banana peel. So he was making a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich on mixed grain bread. I mean, that doesn't sound terrible. I would probably eat that. That sounded great. You didn't think much of that. It seemed weird. It doesn't sound like super great, but like it also doesn't sound bad. So I'm gonna go great. Maybe you'd have one yourself a different time. Curiosity stated, you turned back to your plate and finished your own creation. By the time you were done, Cove had already cleaned up his workstation. He turned to face you, studying your sandwich briefly. A small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. You guessed it didn't look inedible to him, at least. Done? Yeah. Literally about to eat my sandwich.
Cool.
I'm glad you think that's cool. Moving right along. He waited as you quickly returned the ingredients and cleaned a few utensils. The two of you collected your respective plates. You both agreed on heading upstairs to hang out in your room. You and Cove entered your bedroom while balancing your food on the plates. Nothing fell, so it was a successful trip. Cove took a seat on the ground, stretching out on the hardwood floor in an attempt to keep a bit cooler. He immediately took a big bite of his sandwich, chewed, and hummed happily. "The sandwich is really good. At least that's something." At this point, you sat down and started on your own sandwich. You nodded you were enjoying yours too. You shrugged it was okay. You scrunched up your face. It didn't turn out as expected. Like, yeah, cool. I made it. It's pretty good. Obviously, you were a pro at making sandwiches. Yes. He leaned back on his hands while chewing and glanced around. His every movement was sluggish. "Want to do something?" It seemed the plan of not doing anything at all had already worn thin, despite his lack of enthusiasm. "Yeah, like what? Maybe, not really." You couldn't muster a reply. "I mean, I want to say like what, because I don't really have any ideas. I was just hanging out here before I made a sandwich, so..." He rolled his head back, looking up at the ceiling. "What about tic-tac-toe?" You laughed at the suggestion but went along with it. Yeah, neither of you had much energy for much more taxing things. You grudgingly humored it. You thought it was a nice idea. Sure, why not? I'm gonna say sure, why not? You put your plate to the side and pulled out some markers and scrap paper. As you laid everything on the floor, he scooted back to make more room in front of you. Cove picked up one of the markers in his right hand while keeping a half slice of sandwich in his left. "I want to be X's, so you can go first. I think that's fair." "Alright, works fine for me." You prepared to note down your first move, your marker hovering over the paper. Oh, we really get to play! Bro, that's cool. Alright, I'm gonna kick your ass, Cove. Middle square is overrated. Side square is where it's at. Vicious. After the first round, you were able to take another bite of your sandwich when a thought occurred to you. I wonder if anyone turned off the TV downstairs. The TV! It was on earlier, but no one was really watching. Then everyone started leaving the living room. I know I didn't turn it off. It must still be on downstairs when no one's there. Cove smiled crookedly at that. Poor show, playing with no one around to enjoy it. What was it? You squinted off into the middle distance, trying to recall the show's name. I feel like it was some it was I feel like it was some kind of crime-solving drama. Cove nodded sleepily, his eyes closed, then open again with effort. Can you give any specifics? Maybe I can guess it. Well... You rested your chin in your open palm, groggily thinking as hard as you could. I remember there was a woman with long blonde hair, I think. She was the one solving crimes, like as a detective or something. There was a scene in the police station, 'cause someone got arrested? You lapsed into silence, both of you thoughtful. Then Cove chuckled. It wasn't that funny, but you joined in the laughter anyway. I don't know what that is. Me neither. And I just saw it. Oh, Bish, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, Bish. Okay, you're either gonna go to the side or diagonally. So I'm gonna block you. Any options though if I go here? I'm gonna block you here. Strategery. Another round came and went, and Cove grumbled as he readjusted himself. His features were twisted in a grimace. Feels so sticky. I'm gonna be stuck to this floor forever now. I'll have to charge you rent then. You can be my new roomie if you want. Looks like we're both stuck here forever then. I'm sticky too. No way, I'll peel you off if I have to. You just smiled at his whining. Man, I like a lot of these, so either be my new roomie or I'll have to charge you rent. I'll have to charge you rent. That's where I'm going. Yeah? How much? $50.
What?
I can't afford that. Well, you gotta pay up if you want to stick around. Cove shook his head at your terrible pun and went back to the game instead of answering further. Then you returned to the game. I'm gonna... Oh, yeah, right here, bish. Fuck you! You whore! Oops, a one! Yeah, whatever, you ass face. I didn't think I would. I wasn't trying that hard. He smiled at you in an amused way. You somehow weren't surprised by that, despite Cove being the one who suggested the game in the first place. He started to yawn, his hand coming up over to cover his mouth. It quickly transitioned into a small laugh. You understood why. Yawning just as he said he was feeling disinterested was kind of a funny coincidence. You laughed with him. Well, you should have taken the challenge more seriously. You're the one who wanted to play in the first place. I let you win, actually. You shook your head. I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna giggle. That seems funny. Cove just grinned and flopped onto his back, leaving his marker on the floor beside him. You stayed seated, looking your friend over as he stretched himself out. You really are so tall now. Cove snickered a bit at the random topic. He propped himself up onto his elbows to meet your gaze. Why are you even bringing that up? You shrugged. Make perfect sense to you to bring it up. Well, my moms were talking about me and Elizabeth growing up, getting bigger, stuff.
Oh?
What kind of stuff? Don't ask me that! Oh, my boobs in the mirror. I was looking at them before he came over. Well, Mom only likes women, and Ma likes women too, but not just women. Yeah? Since the two of you were engaged in conversation, Cove got back into a sitting position. He brought a knee up and rested his arm on top of it. A wistful expression overtook his face. I wonder when I'll know how I feel about that kind of thing. You don't know? Cove shook his head. I've heard at some point you're supposed to start liking types of people. Guys or girls or whoever.
No.
But I haven't. Nothing's changed. Maybe I have to grow up more. Maybe you just don't like anybody. Or maybe you like all types of people. That's normal too. Cove seemed to appreciate that thought, if the smile that appeared on his lips was any indication. Okay, what about you? Who do you like? He turned his attention to you, looking encouraging. You're starting to have physical attraction in a general way. You only seem to feel physical attraction in specific cases and situations. You really didn't have physical interest in other people. You didn't think you could tell if you had an interest in people physically. I'm gonna say specific cases and situations was probably me at 13. Romantic attraction in a general way. Romantic attraction is specific. Yeah, we're gonna go there too. But specifically, when it came to how you felt towards boys. Found them attractive, you thought you'd be happy with a guy someday. You found them attractive, but you hadn't thought about being with a guy. You weren't physically interested, but you'd be happy to have a romantic relationship with a guy. You weren't interested in guys. You generally weren't interested in guys, but there were special exceptions. I mean, that's a versed option. I'm probably gonna say, like, this one. That's 'cause that's where I live. And how you felt towards girls. Found them attractive, so these are the same options. we're gonna go there. For people who aren't exclusively male or female, same options again. Gosh, I haven't honestly thought about this. I think when I was 13 that this is something that wasn't really discussed or touched on, and like in my experience now, non-binary's, you know, not something that I would generally be against, but when I was 13, we're gonna go this bottom one. That's what we're gonna do. That seems accurate. You returned your attention to Cove. He was waiting patiently for your response. You explained how you felt. Yeah, like he's my buddy. You're the one who started this awkward conversation, Cove. You're gonna deal with it. He nodded understandingly at your attempt to describe how you felt. Then he scratched the back of his head, sheepish, in that awkward anime boy way, like he do. I'm not really sure how we ended up talking about all that when we started out playing tic-tac-toe. But it was good, I think. I think so too. I shrugged. It was awkward. The conversation had a mind of its own. You just nodded quietly. Like, I think so too. We're buddies. We can talk about that kind of stuff. Cove chuckled a little bashfully. He glanced around, clearly scrambling for something else to say. Have you seen any movies recently? Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. The conversation took a lighter turn after that, and it felt like you got closer that afternoon. Finally, the blazing sun began to set. To your relief, the air cooled down a bit as a result. You pulled yourself off the floor as did Cove with some minor complaint. You both stretched your arms, groaning, and yawned into your hands. You glanced out your window briefly, taking in the soft reds, pinks, and purples of the late afternoon sky. Somehow, you had made it through the scorching hot day in one piece. Cove turned towards you, motioning towards your window with his chin. Want to go outside? It might be better out there than it is in here now. Sounds good. I could really use some fresh air. The two of you took your time heading downstairs. You stopped briefly to grab a drink of water, then continued on your way. You stepped outside one after the other, your destination being the familiar hills behind your house. This time of day it was quiet outside. The flowers blew gently in the wind, petals trembling but stubbornly hanging in there. You felt the breeze cool your heated skin and you relaxed your shoulders. Cove closed his eyes, releasing a deep breath. I really love it out here. I do too. You do? That's surprising, you said jokingly. Your opinion sure has changed since you were first on the hill. You quietly enjoyed the moment. I'm just gonna hang out, not say anything. We don't need to rehash your angstiness. Cove smiled. It was clear that he was enjoying it too. A beat passed, but his gaze didn't stray from your own. His voice was impossibly soft when he spoke up again. Glad I met you, French Fires. Really important to me, no? I would probably blush at that, so we're probably gonna go there. Yes, I'm gonna blush. That's what I'm gonna do. You hoped that your reaction wasn't obvious, but it must have been, because his smile grew in the corners. Then Cove rested an arm on one of your shoulders, leaning against you. Even as the sun disappeared completely and the sky darkened, you and Cove remained side by side for as long as you possibly could.